This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call to order the regular May 17th, 2021 council meeting to order at 7 p.m. Are there any additions or corrections to tonight's agenda? If not, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll make that motion to accept the agenda as written.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Counselor. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Counselor Williams,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any presentations tonight? No presentations. We'll move right into my mayor's report. Counselor Williams was scheduled to announce and choose the Citizen of the Month of May. Due to a possible scheduling conflict of Grant not being able to make this meeting, we chose to postpone that part of our agenda until June. And at that time, Counselor Williams will take on that duty in June on the second meeting of the month. So, but with that said, I would like to recognize a member of the community, Jay Nesmith, owner of the, of course, everyone knows Jay, mostly owner of the Vernonia Hardware. He graciously and patriotically donated a brand new American flag at City Hall. So, hats off to Jay and for that gesture, and it's very well appreciated, especially at this time of year when we memorialize our veterans and the people we lost. So thank you again, Jay. Are there any committee or reports from the committees? Counselor Allen.
Yeah, the cemetery meeting, we had one. It was a pretty good meeting. I'll kind of hit the highlights. They were asked to talk about the second interment on the columbarium, and some prices went back and forth. They're going to bring to us. The city recommended between $1,000 and $1,500. The committee settled on $1,250. They talked about replacement of the flagpoles, since we're getting ready to try to put together a ceremony up there. We looked at some collapsible aluminum flagpoles that have a solar light and all that, and then you can hook the flag on and just kind of like a zip wall pole. They just go up 6 feet at a time, turn the lock, and keep doing it. They look pretty easy to use. So they're going to probably bring to council a request for one of those to give it a try. And then they also discussed the rolling canopy, but decided to table that to get some more information on it. They also talked about doggy bags and banning leashes and that kind of stuff. I think they decided just to kind of leave it alone and hope that people are going to do the right thing. And they didn't think that a sign was going to make much difference. So, and also who's going to be up there to enforce it. So that was the big gist of the meeting right there. So I hope I didn't miss anything, but I think that's the big part of it.
Thank you, JR. I attended the senior board meeting last Friday at 10 a.m. and a couple items I'd like to share with the council. They had a stellar month for the thrift shop. I almost said strip shop. The thrift shop, they grossed over $7,000 in 1 month. So that was pretty awesome. I noticed a couple weekends ago on the weekend, they had an outdoor rummage sale. Kind of, it's pretty pretty involved there. So also, the office administrator, Marnie, has resigned and moving on. And so there's actually 2 positions open now. One being the office administrator to replace Marty. And they're also looking for kind of a backup cook, part-time cook, to help out Chris down there and Teresa in the kitchen. So, good meeting. One of the first meetings, it was announced that whoever was vaccinated is not required to wear a mask anymore. So most everyone took off their mask and they're getting ready to open up, I think, down there in the senior center. They did a lot of Meals on Wheels again, and so they're doing very well down there. So that's the report from the senior board. Any other committee reports? If not, we'll move on to topics from the floor tonight.
I have none unless one of the callers, there we go.
Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Hobart. Scott Laird, 1325 Bridge Street. You have an item on your agenda tonight concerning filling the open spot on the council for the resigned Lorna Potter. And as a voter, I just wanted to weigh in as a constituent and offer my thoughts on how I think that should be handled. I think you have a pretty clear path on what you should do. That's very uncomplicated and very easy to accomplish. When that election happened, you had 4 people who put themselves up for election, who took the time to get themselves on the ballot and run. And this election just happened, 6-7 months ago. The 2 people who received the most votes got the seats. One of them has resigned. And I think it's pretty easy. You just move down the list of the other candidates that ran in that election and appoint the next person who received the next most votes, which would be Susan Wagner. So if you asked her and she was willing to serve, I think you appoint her. If for some reason she's not willing to serve, then you go to Bruce McNair and you ask him if he would like to serve. And then if neither of them are willing to serve, you can go ahead back and look at some of those other options. But with this just having been a few months ago that we had this election and we had people who put themselves up for election and received the votes, I think that that's the easy way to settle this and the most fair to the voters who did vote for those candidates. So as a voter and a constituent, that would be my expectation of how you would handle that. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Scott. That is one of the options we will talk about further in the agenda tonight. Thank you. Okay, any other audience participation tonight? Okay. We'll move on to consent agenda for acceptance. Consent agenda for approval. City Council meeting minutes for May 3rd, 2021. Any discussion or questions on May 3rd meeting minutes? Okay, if no discussion, would anyone like to make a motion to accept those meeting minutes? Councilor Webb.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We accept the consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that motion.
Second's been made. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Councilor Webb,
Aye.
Councilor Allen,
Aye.
Counselor Williams,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there any unfinished business tonight? Wow, we're moving right along. Zip, zip, zip. Well, we'll move right into new business then. Looks like we have another waiver of remonstrance from Mr. Cecil. Can be found on page 5 and 6.
So
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I put this in your guys' packet. I apologize for not clarifying, but I just wanted to note that the map reflects the house that he removed due to fire damage, and he is replacing it with a new manufactured home that is slightly larger.
Sorry, Stephanie, can you say that last part again?
He is replacing it with a new manufactured home that is slightly larger than his old one.
Oh, yeah, I noticed there was some fire damage to that home a while ago.
Counselor Williams.
Was the garage damaged at all?
It was not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions? Would any council wish to make a motion to accept this waiver? Counselor Webb.
Yeah, I'll move that we accept the waiver of remonstrance from Daryl Cecil at 1338 Cherry Street.
So moved. Thank you, Counselor Webb. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Allen. Call the roll, please, Stephanie.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Williams,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next item is staff report, filling of council vacancy. You found on page 7 is the council reviewed the council options for this process moving forward to fill this seat. Go ahead, Josette.
So it's actually in the amended packet on page 9.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get my amended packet. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It just has a little bit more detail in the staff report, and then it was also included the Columbia County election results, and then also included draft questions if you were to go the direction of doing the citizens panel.
Basically, so we still have the council still has the 3 options.
Well, in the original staff report, 1 and 3 were very similar, just missing a interview. Number 1, the one we historically had done, the city council had a citizen panel that interviewed interested applicants and then recommended to them someone that's their pick, basically. And the council also interviewed that person, and it just happened to work out that the council honored their pick and appointed the person the citizen panel had recommended.
Okay. Counselor Allen.
Yeah, Josette, when I read that, it's slightly misleading if you don't know that only one person applied for the position, which was the former counselor that quit and then came back and was the only applicant. So I don't think that they had a whole lot of, I guess they had a choice, but it was only one person that applied, according to what you told me. So when I read that, it was like, it was a little bit, I don't know, the wording didn't come across as only one person put in, the person that had actually quit and then came back.
Well, and I didn't mean for it to detail out that it was one person. It was that they had asked, the citizen panel was their voting public, right? To give
Right.
the citizens a say. That's what I was trying to get across. Because before it just looked like pick somebody, right?
Right.
But all of those are open to you guys. But I did in the amended packet include the election results and then potential questions if you were to interview or have a panel interview people.
Well, I read your amended version today, and I guess I like the option of council picking and open it up for applications for 30 days. And since Susan Wagner is here tonight, I'd like to confirm that she's willing to come back on council if picked. I assume she is since she's here, but I'd like to hear from her.
It would be my honor.
Okay.
Counselor Webb.
I agree with Scott Laird in that this vacancy happened pretty quick. So the process of kind of honoring the vote on option 2 would be my preferred method to move forward.
Counselor Williams.
Well, would it actually be a matter of us choosing, or would it be a matter of if the other person still would like to be on the council, whoever got the most votes would be the obvious candidate, if they both wanted to be on the council?
Yeah, so in your amended packet, and I might just share my screen so you guys can see. And take it a second. These are the results. So this is who ran and the total. Can everyone see it? Want me to make it bigger?
Oh, it's good there.
Just for your discussion.
And option 2 was taking the next highest vote.
Counselor Williams.
That isn't what it says, unless it says that in the amended packet. It says
It
choose
must be
among
because
the
that's what
other
it says.
candidates, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Grant?
It says to choose from the other people who ran in the election. If we go with this option, I believe the person who had the third most amount of votes should be the person, not the one who came in last.
Yes, the amended packet, Josette made changes to it. So what
Okay, so that clarifies that?
It sounds like you're looking at the original one. So that's the
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Counselor Allen.
Yeah, my vote on this would still be to open it up to the general public to see who wants to serve on council. Not that we don't have a qualified person ready to go, but the voters did vote for change. They voted out 2 current counselors, voted in 2 new people, and I'm not sure why they did that, but they did do that. So maybe we owe it to the community to look at everybody that wants to apply. No one applies, then I guess it's a pretty easy choice. That would be my thought on it. I don't think there's a big hurry. The way I understand it, took 6 months last time.
Counselor Williams,
You're on mute.
you're,
That was a false alarm, sorry. Those are actually pictures on my refrigerator. It looks like my hand, but that's not me. This is me.
yeah, I was asking you, Counselor Williams, what you thought. Which option do you like that serves us the best, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think number 2, for the simple reason that if somebody was interested in running and they didn't, for them to show up after the party started, it's kind of too late for me. It's a 4-year.
Well, I don't have the revised packet in front of me, so I don't know what number 2 looks like.
That would be choosing a person who participated in the last election, that went through the process. They candidated, people voted for them. If they weren't interested enough to run when it was the time to run, I think we ought to stick with somebody who cared enough to put in the effort. My opinion.
I guess it's up to me now, huh?
That's why we need to have 5 counselors.
Yeah. Well, when I originally came in tonight meeting, I was in favor of opening it up to the public and accepting applications and moving forward.
So does the mayor get 2 votes?
No. There's only one soul in this body.
Guess we'll have to flip a coin.
Well, if I voted to accept applications, there'd be a 2-2 tie.
Well, there's still a good chance the outcome still comes out the same either way.
Yeah. Well, in light of the discussion and the comments made tonight, I think I will go along with the option of the people that participated in the 2020 election. Be recognized. So, do we need a motion to move forward with that? Anyone like to make a motion? Councilor Webb.
I'd like to clarify for you there,
Yeah.
Mayor. Option 2 states that the next highest vote would be the candidate that we would select. So Bruce wouldn't be involved then, so.
And that
That's
was,
why I'm sorry, but that's why I think it's fair to let it open for everybody. Because, I mean, if Counselor Potter hadn't have been in the race, then maybe Bruce would have won. So I just think it's fair to open it up for everybody.
Can I clarify? You mean everybody that's left on this list or everybody?
Either way.
was that your opinion, Counselor Webb?
Well, that's the way I'm reading option 2. I got the amended version here, the updated version. So it was just the next highest vote. So that was my selection.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you stated. And Counselor Williams, the same for you?
Yes, I am in favor of option 2.
And I am not. So it's up to the mayor.
Well, Stephanie,
Just to help it along, there's no motion on the table. So if someone wants to make a motion, then it might make it a little bit easier for you guys to all make your choices.
I understand. Counselor Webb.
So I'll make a motion that for filling the council vacancies, that we choose option 2 and use the next person with the next highest vote count in the last November election as our selectee for the council position.
And a name.
Susan Wagner.
Go ahead, Counselor Williams.
That's a second. Peace sign and a second.
Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Mayor Hobart,
Nay.
Counselor Williams,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Nay.
motion fails.
Maybe we need to bring it back after we've all thought about it more. I don't know.
How do we want to proceed to move forward, Counselor Allen or Counselor Webb?
Well, I think we need to keep moving this forward because we can see what we have when we have 4 people. We end up with not moving anywhere. So since my motion failed, I would propose then we use option 1 and all the candidates apply and we go through the process that way. That's the only other option we have unless somebody wants to reconsider their vote.
Okay. Counselor Williams.
I'll make a motion that we move forward exercising option 1.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Counselor Webb, second. Call the roll, please, Stephanie.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Williams,
Aye.
motion carried.
Go ahead, Josette.
So, if we move forward with this option, then that means we're gonna put an announcement on the website asking for the first 5 people in the community that would like to be part of the citizens panel. And once we get those first people to come and fill out whatever, we're gonna make a little half sheet that says I'm on the citizens panel. Then we'll set up a date that works for all of you to do your interviews here at City Hall, and then perhaps have the other interview with the citizens panel go on at either Rose Avenue or the Scout Cabin, if that works. So getting the 2 panels kind of set up, and the date, it will be 30 days from now, at least, for the interview part, to give people a chance to apply if they're interested. Does that sound like a good procedure?
Think so?
Thumbs up? Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Josette.
Yep.
Any business from the departments? Oh, Susan, go ahead.
I was just wondering, a clarifying question. When you choose the citizen panel, do they represent the community, other community members, or are they only representing themselves? Is there a process or procedure method? Is it strict? I mean, are there rules associated with that?
There wasn't rules. We had a pretty good cross section of just, a volunteer, someone that works in a business in town, kind of just a good mix of them. But there isn't criteria that have been in place to, or have been established specific, like you need someone from the logging industry or someone from a business, or there aren't criteria. Typically it's those interested types of people that apply or say they want to sit in on it. We could take every name, and then council as a whole could pick the 5. Each pick one, and you pick one together or something. I mean, that's one way to do it too. We get everybody that's interested, just take an interested parties list. Each of you pick one person, and together you pick one that you can all agree on, and that's who it is. I can do it that way too. That seems more legitimate.
Right. Just a cross section of our community sounds good to me.
The reason I was asking, and this is entirely self-serving, although I truly believe I would make this statement whether it was me or Bruce or one of you, is you had a cross section of 479 members of the community who did share their opinion. I'm happy to go through this, and I'm happy with it, whatever choice you make. I know it's not easy when you're a counselor and you have those decisions to make, but just my opinion is that you've had 479 people speak out. So thank you very much. I appreciate your allowing me to speak on this.
Thank you, Susan.
The other version is I take all interested party names and I draw them at, we do a Zoom and I draw 5 names out of the hat. You can do it any way you want, really.
Counselor Webb.
No, I like your first idea, Josette. Gather the names and then each counselor pick one and we'll pick one in consensus with each other
Okay.
for the five. I mean, that works good for me.
Okay.
I think that works better than picking them out of the hat.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Consensus.
Okay. We ready to move on?
We are. So could I ask you guys, is there any way you can open the amended packet on your computers? Because these next two things were also amended. So
I think I have it. What page? Because when I printed out, I lost a couple pages and it's really frustrating me here, but I read it and then I hit print, but I got some weird stuff that printed it and it said corrupted file. So I had a little issue, but so
amended packet as on page 13. The
okay.
reserve, I tweaked the reserve policy because the one that went initially out, I was stuck in a meeting with the chief in the police department. And so it didn't have the couple of words you guys have asked to be in there.
So is it this one with the red? That's page 14. This one has page 13.
Was that?
Yeah.
Before we go into the resolutions, Chief is on the line and has a staff report under business from departments.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm still on staff reports.
Go for it.
We just finished our new business, so I'm moving on to staff reports. So Chief, you're up.
All right, I'm having connectivity issues, so hopefully you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, it's a little slow on my end, but we'll get her going. At any rate, I got a report. March and April calls for service. We did 342 calls. Total between July 2020 and April 2021 were 1,848 calls for service. Code enforcement, in April, we started with 51 code enforcement violations. 18 were completed. There are 14 new ones and 47 to carry over into next month or this month. Last month, we did a little bit of marine patrol down at the lake. We spent 3 weekends down there on Saturdays for a couple hours a day. We did 18 boat inspections. A majority of those were fails. We'll continue to do boat inspections by appointment only, or we might have another event later in the summer months when it starts to pick up again. I sent a request to Oregon State Police in reference to their stats. I have not heard back yet for the stats for Highway 47. I will be submitting a traffic grant later on this week. If that's approved, that'll cover overtime costs specifically for traffic enforcement. And we're starting the 2021 Jamboree planning, and with COVID kind of still lingering around, I don't know how much assistance we're going to actually get this year. And that was all I had for my report. JR, I am still working on trying to get a date for your ride along. When you came in and talked to me, we actually got a report of fraud, and that led to an arrest, which we believe is the person you reported at being at the cemetery. And that person is currently being held in jail on about $227,000 bail. So we're still working on that case. So that's all I got.
I'm glad I listened to my gut then. Thank you.
Yep.
Good job, Chief.
Thank you, Chief, and thanks for keeping us safe once again.
Anytime.
Relay it on to your members.
Will do.
Okay, ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2021-09.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I had a question for the chief.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go
Uh,
ahead.
Chief, is it my imagination or have there been quite a few more homeless people in town?
We have had a couple of new ones that showed up. I haven't seen that gentleman for the last, well, I've been off. I was off yesterday. I haven't seen him for 3 days, so I don't know if he's still in town or not, but he was reported to us as maybe running around town naked.
Well, that's not the
I
guy I
believe he
saw.
might be gone.
The guy I saw, we were over at my building, the old veterinary shop, and Eldana thought a guy in a wheelchair had an accident at the ramp, so we went running down there, find out he was just taking a break, and he was kind of on the sidewalk and out in the street. And I think I saw later in the day that same gentleman with a walker, and I was just wondering, is that guy okay? Is he under the bridge? I mean,
That's the guy with the walker is the one that we had contact with.
okay. Thank you.
And I'm medically, I think he's fine. Hopefully he's not staying around too long.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Counselor Allen.
Yeah, Chief Connor, if you don't have the answer now, you can bring it back next time. I was wondering, the 342 calls, how many of those are night versus day shift?
Oh, I'm just going to throw out a rough number. I'd probably say 85%.
Ooh,
85% between 12 in the afternoon and 11 o'clock at night.
Well, so some of that's day shift then, right?
Yeah, it can kind of be in the middle, but a majority of the call volume usually starts to happen when people start getting home from work.
Do you track it by officer that responds, or is there a way of knowing exactly?
Yeah, I could. I'd have to go through every individual call for the month, which wouldn't take too awful long.
I'm just curious. If you get time, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Great. And no big hurry on right along. If it happens in June, that's fine, whatever.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, moving on. Resolution 2021-09, a resolution adopting a reserve fund policy. Okay, Josette.
Okay. The way you'll tell if it's the alternate amended packet is on page 15 is where I added the language that you guys wanted around the new equipment. So the section on facilities reserve now states that the minimum amount to be designated for facilities reserves will be established an amount sufficient to cost of repairs to facilities, purchase of new equipment that will be used to perform the functions of the department, or to act as a down payment in the event, is what it should say, that funding is required for a total replacement of the facility. So that means it's not just a new pump, it could be a new truck, it could be anything used for the function of that department that's new equipment. So that was one change. And then we also added a change at the top of page 16 where it had said Appendix B. We tweaked that. The reserve funds will be funded annually with contributions being determined based on the reserve fund contribution schedule initially adopted under the resolution we're going to talk about next. So it kind of just gives the public or the future us a starting point. Whereas the first time they adopted the contribution schedule, it's going to change after that because it potentially could be changed each year. Other than that, then the only other tweaks were on page 19 for general fund. Angie had added in that the annual contribution of 2% of the operating budget, if available, or determined during the budget process. So if it is determined by the budget committee that that 2% can't be there, or that more than that 2% is going in there, that's the kind of leeway you leave yourself as the council and budget committee. Is we'll start with aiming for 2%. If there's a carryover, it might be more than 2%, or if the budget and council in the budget committee process tweak it, it could be less than 2%, but staff can always try to get the 2%. And then the last page, or then again, kind of referencing at the very end that the resolution for the schedule. So are there any corrections to this policy, or does it work for everyone?
Go ahead, Counselor Webb.
I guess this would probably fall to other counselors. I mean, on the general fund, do we want to do the 2%? Or do we want to put a specified that 24K that we had been talking? And then.
But wait, Dale, so that none of them have the amount in the this policy. They're in the next resolution.
Right. And so all I would say was under the general fund, it would follow the reserve fund payment schedule or whatever you would refer to it. I just wanted to see if anybody has any issues with that. And as far as the, I'm trying to get clarification on this. It says initial reserve fund contribution schedule adopted under the next ordinance to be looking at, and then revised each year. So revised as in to the dollar amount. I mean, I know the dollar amounts we put in each year could exceed the amount that we've requested to put in there. So is that the revision you're talking about, or the target amounts that we've initially set?
No, so it's the revised each year, because every year is going to be a new number in there on the schedule.
On the schedule,
Yeah.
the actual amount we are putting in.
Yeah, it could be the minimum, or on the off chance you guys could decide it's less than the minimum because of some other extenuating circumstance.
So does that mean we have to redo that resolution every year because we're changing that number?
Yeah, that's why we didn't want the numbers in this one. Because every time it isn't what we say it is, you have to update the resolution. That's why we were trying to keep the numbers out of the policy, so to speak, because you have to keep it up.
Wouldn't it be cleaner if we set the minimum amounts we want to put in there in the resolution with the proviso that if we can exceed those amounts, it can go into the payment schedule? That way we wouldn't have to be revising it every year.
So that's why Angie did the narrative version for the next resolution. You could get rid of the schedule, so to speak, and just adopt the narrative that she gave you guys with the amount in it. You saw that? The reserve fund contribution guidelines.
You mean the 250,000 cap?
No, so she said good faith attempts will be made to transfer 2% of the operating fund to the reserve each year. In the case of a budget shortfall, staff will recommend a lesser amount to the budget committee. The cap is 250. So you could, and for the sewer and water reserves, she put the 29,000 because those will be budgeted in the rate, right? So that the 2% is the general fund and parks, and then sewer is the 2 amount. So you could adopt that, and or even tweak it a little and put 24,000, but really this is the lowest it's ever going to be. So to adopt the 24,000, ultimately in a year, 2% of that is going to be more than 24,000, 2% of the next year, right? So that's why we're leaving it a percentage instead of a hard number that doesn't always stay the same.
Go ahead, JR.
Yeah, Josette, just from where I'm sitting, when you went through that, it sounds like wiggle room. Like we don't want to be held to 2%. And then my thinking is, if you can spend 98%, you're worried about 2%, you have a budget problem that you need to address spending, not saving of 2%. So if 2% is an issue and council is asking for things, then it's up to council to say we can't do that because we got to save, we got to pay ourselves first. And we all agreed that paying ourselves first in these funds is important. So I'm willing to stick to the 2%. And like you say, it'll probably be, the amount goes up, but the 2% is just an easy 2%.
Right, and that's so the tricky part is that council has approved things happening that now make it impossible when we went to write the budget to put the $24,000 in there.
Well, I realize that, but also the staff came and wanted to hire another employee after the council approved things.
No, that's the proving that, and other things in the general fund, which we'll go through tomorrow, led to that we can take the 24 and pitch it out of contingency, but then we're going to leave the general fund with, it's like $1 million fund with like $28,000 contingency, which is kind of crazy. We can totally do it, but
right.
I don't see it as wiggle room. The reality is that the four of you could be replaced and someone could totally change this policy. So putting a number in there doesn't really secure that the next people are always going to do the same thing.
Right. I understand that.
We can put whatever, we can leave it the schedule. We can just do the narrative. Really, those are in the next resolution. So the reserve actual policy, so do you want it to say, not say if available? Because does that make you feel better if I take out if available?
Yeah, it's just, it sounded like that we can come up with an excuse not to do it at any time. I mean, just from my ears when I heard it, and it's hard to hear actually on this computer, so forgive me if I heard it wrong.
Well, we can always put in the 2%. The reality is, though, is the budget committee could totally change that, and as staff, we have no control over that.
Right. But then ultimately it comes down to council to ratify it.
It does. Some set of 5 citizens. Because
so, yeah,
we're
it's just
trying to tie the future councils, and I don't know that this does what we're hoping it will do. I mean, it acknowledges this is our goal, this is the narrative of why we're trying to start these funds and set our city up on a better leg, but I don't know that it actually ties the future council into requiring they do it. But
no, it obviously it's not going to tie them to anything because any council can change anything they want, but hopefully it sets a good example of financial responsibility and looking out for our citizens, that anybody that want to be a counselor and go through all that would continue that that program, that obviously you can show a track record of where we're at and where we started with it, and hopefully pay yourself first, it becomes a good motto. And maybe throughout the year, staff has to remind council, hey, if you keep piling on projects, we're not going to have the money to save for ourselves. So I don't know if you need to put wiggle room in there when there's always wiggle room. If it comes down to, police force are saving 2% or whatever, decision's got to be made, but
Well, and
kind of
ultimately,
see.
we're trying to make the policy be able to float through budget. And if for some reason budget didn't decide to do what's documented in this policy, it wouldn't be combating it. Because, right, you're writing this policy hoping everyone will do what it says, but then if it's too tight and they don't do what everyone says, then we've not done what we said we're going to do. So it seems like leaving that it would get determined through the budget process isn't really us. The budget is 5 council and 5 citizens. They can say, nope, go back to 24. Nope, go back to 2%. They can say anything. So that's why we were trying to leave a little wiggle room in the wording so we wouldn't be having it negate itself. But we can change whatever you want. I mean, it's just simple. So.
Councilor Webb.
So I'd like to point out that we've set a cap of $250,000. We've set a fixed number for that general fund. And when we had that discussion, we were talking 7 years to get there. That's where that 24K resolved from. It seems to me that using a percentage probably isn't the best way to do that then, because we kind of had a fixed schedule we were planning on. If that cap was a percentage of the general fund, then it would make sense. So I just want to pitch that out. And Councilor Allen, I totally agree. When we're writing this budget, first thing that should go in there, 24K for that facility, general fund facility reserve, and then start building the budget around that. I just have the feeling sometimes that we get doing the budget and then this reserve gets what's left. And I don't think that serves us well. I've talked to the administrator. We're going to be looking at new roofs on City Hall and library before too long. And you know what that's going to cost. So we're going to have to start sticking some money in there. I think putting at least 24K in there is a prudent thing to do. We're going to have to work through some things tomorrow night to make that happen, but that's where I'm at. I think we need to stick to our guns and make that money go into that account.
So that's a whole separate conversation for tomorrow. Do you like what she did with the changes on the spreadsheet side where it has the target minimum and the years and the
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's got the targets, and we had that discussion. I talked to Josette on Friday, and we didn't have that in there before, and so you can see we're in sewer. We put 62 grand in. So next year, would we remember that we're supposed to put 29K in there? See, it's got to be somewhere in black and white, and it's the same with the general fund, the 24K.
But she has the 10 in there because that's what's in the proposed budget.
Right.
So
But we know that our target's 24K though. So even next year.
Ultimately, this is getting adopted before we're done with budget. But next year, we'll get through budget, we'll have an adopted budget, and then this will get updated with what went in there. Does that make sense? We're a little bit flip-flopped on the timing because if you guys adopt this tonight, then it will have that 10,000 in there, but we know potentially you guys are going to want to change that tomorrow.
Correct.
Or you table just this until the end of the proposed budget gets tentatively approved and sent to council. and then adopt it when it has the real 2021 numbers in it.
See, that's my concern is on that part, on the payment schedule, if we can't just put some verbiage in there that it seems like it's really awkward. We're having to adopt a new one every time the number doesn't match our target. Even every year we just adopt a new one, because even if we put the 24K in there, that would still match what our target is. But you're saying because we're putting a number in the schedule, it needs to be revised. To me, that just seems like that's already a foregone conclusion that it's just a payment schedule. The only time this would need to be brought back is if we were going to change the targets, because the policy references the targets that we're using to put in the funds. That's what council really went after and is trying to embed in these documents is what our goals were. You see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying, but when you look at your targets ultimately could get capped out. Say you have some crazy year where you throw 100 towards the general fund facility reserve, then all of your stuff you've written down really doesn't make sense anymore because you're hitting the target. Or the next year, in order to cap it, you're asking for way littler than 24,000. That's the trouble with any policy of the city that has numbers in it, is you're going to have to keep revising it because those numbers aren't always going to be true. That's the issue with why we were like, don't put numbers in any of it, because then to keep up with it and have it keep current, you're going to be changing it all the time. It's going to be like the master fee schedule. When there's a change added to it, you're redoing it.
Well, I guess that would take us, if we all understand that, it's going to take us 5 minutes to pass it. So I just think it's really important to have those base target numbers in a document that is in a resolution. So we have something to reference, and people behind us or in front of us, wherever they come in here, they're going to have that documentation.
Right, so what I feel is, if you guys tabled it, you do your meeting tomorrow, you tell us 24,000, we figure it out, and 24,000 goes on this schedule, and then you adopt it with the real numbers, then it's just adopted once a year with the updated numbers following the budget. That's what I'm trying to get you to do.
Okay. But we can adopt the policy first.
There,
But we can adopt the policy then first, though. But it's still back to that general fund, the red line. I need other counselors here on this. Do we want that annual contribution to be 2% operating budget, or are we going to say refer to the payment schedule?
Well, but in reality, what she's saying right there is the annual contribution is to be 2% of the operating budget if available. You want if available out. You want it to say 2% of operating budget or as determined during the budget process.
I'd like it to say 2% minimum.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is you guys as the council in a budget meeting could go against it in your vote. So that's why I wanted it to say 2% of operating budget or as determined by the budget process, because then it's on the budget committee to make some other alternative other than 2%. Right? The if available takes us putting in less than 2% out, is how I If we take if available out and just leave it, the annual contributions to be 2% or as determined by the budget process, meaning the budget committee, not us. The if available was us.
JR.
If council made a decision to put 2% in, period, I don't know what the budget committee would really have to say about it. It's just part of the built-in process at that point. I mean, if they didn't like it, then I guess they could run for council and try to change it. But I mean, if the council made a determination they wanted to save money for the future, I don't see how they would have a big problem with it. Am I missing something?
Well, when you're on the budget committee, you're not council. So
Well, I
you
realize
can
that.
I put the 24,000 in there, and the 5 citizens, one of you could vote to do differently than that.
Right, I understand that, but 99% of the time it comes to the budget committee and they look at it and go, great. So if it comes built in and everything's paid for, I don't see how they'd have a big issue with it. Or anybody on the citizen panel. I guess I'm not following your point there, Josette, quite 100%.
And tweak it however you want. I just think that ultimately you're going to write something down that you're going to then contradict when you can't find 2% or you want to spend it on something else. You're going to be basically writing a document that's not true. That's my reason for leaving. Even if you take away staff's wiggle room, leave the budget committee some wiggle room so we're not conflicting a document as we're working through the budget. That's what I'm saying. But change it however you want. It's your guys' policy. I'm just putting my 2 cents because I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to not building things in that then we're battling as a council or not doing what we said we would do kind of thing.
Well, I can appreciate that. Obviously, it's harder to do budget and staff if you've got a bunch of rules to start with. But I think what some of the counselors are trying to say is if it's in black and white, then it's pretty easy. You just start from here, and even if it's 1%, I mean, I don't know if we taking it out of contingency doesn't sound real good. So I kind of got the feeling that we're tight this year and on that general fund, and we're not wanting to rework it. Am I correct on that assumption, Josette?
No, I'm happy to rework it. It's just the general fund's always where everybody goes to get things done that aren't specific to any one fund, right? And so it just takes a lot of hits most of the time.
Let me ask you this. If a couple of roofs need done, are we going to be able to take it from the water or sewer or parks
No.
or cemetery? So we wouldn't be able to take it from anywhere except for the general fund. And then those roofs are 20 years old plus now. So I hate to say it, and I'm not trying to go against you. I'm actually trying to look out for the city in the future and say, I think we should try to stick to the 2%, even if that means there's something that I want that's going to have to slide. I'm willing to work through the budget process and try to make that happen. So I still vote for the 2%.
Tomorrow telling us to find $24,000. But to me, that's a different conversation than this conversation right here. If you want to tell staff find the $14,000 that isn't there, then that's fine. But I don't want you to write a document that pinches your own selves by worrying that we're not going to follow and put in $24,000. If you tell me it's 2% and these are the minimums that go in, guess what? Your 2022-2023 budget is going to be just like that. It doesn't benefit me to not do what you ask. So I just don't want you to write something in here that's like everyone's understanding a little differently and you're making it hard on yourself.
Go ahead, Counselor Webb.
I can understand Josette's concern there, is that safety valve or whatever you want to call it, because we may come into a situation where we can't put that in there. And we've got if we do our policy ironclad that we have to put it in there, I guess we contradict ourselves. But that, like she says, that's not good policy. I guess.
Deal.
Go ahead.
So the same exact wording is in parks. Do you feel the same about it in parks?
I know how strapped Parks is, but when I look at a $1.2 million budget for general fund, and we're trying to scratch 24K, I think it's a fiscal discipline thing.
Yeah, I'm saying that the if available words are also in the park fund, and nobody has the problem with that. But with general fund, are you worried we're really not going to put it in there?
Well, in fairness to you guys, we're doing this policy right in the middle of the budget, but yeah, you have 10 grand in there this year, when you knew that we were wanting 24, but
the thing that is interesting in doing the math is it's actually like 22,000 something. If you really do the 2% of the operating budget, it's not 24. And so we were doing that today, like, okay, well, how could you make it so that they'd be comfortable with it? I don't know that anyone's going to be comfortable with it. And then our fear is, say it is 2%, and there's major things going on in the general fund. Will the future council use that requirement to then tell me, oh, well, you got to get rid of someone because we got to put this $24,000 in this pot? That's what makes me a little nervous about you guys not having any room to move and the budget committee not having any room to move. It potentially could mean, oh, now someone goes part-time because we can't. I don't know. It is hard doing this while we're doing budget, because you think of like every little instant inversion that could happen. So do you guys just want an annual contribution to be 2% of operating budget and nothing else in all the funds?
No, I think you're right. I think we got to have that wiggle, and I think that's where it's incumbent upon the council when we get to the budget that we go, this is our goals, and we point to the document. It says, 2%. So we'll have to crunch the numbers, and I guess that's where we're going to have to do our due diligence. But next year, we sure would like to see that number in the budget document starting out. But yeah, I know realities, but if we don't do this, though, we're going to get behind the 8 ball. Those 2 roofs are coming, and if we're going to limp along at 10 grand a year, we're probably going to be taking out a loan.
Well, the interesting thing about that fund is it does have money in it.
Yeah, 85, something like that.
Yeah. 83 or.
Yeah.
So what changes do you guys want?
Counselor Allen.
I was hoping the mayor and Grant would chime in. It seemed like Dale and I are flapping our gaps here.
Yeah, I'm trying to grasp the whole picture. Thanks, JR. I'm kind of going along with Josette and passing this reserve fund policy with the changes of the 2% and then the flexibility every budget year to look at the numbers and see where we're at, and having that and/or I think helps us. And so I understand that, although I'm pretty I put a lot of emphasis on saving money every year too. and I guess I trust the staff in trying to put that 2% in and every year and doing their job. So that's the way I feel about it. Grant.
Well, you guys all know I'm a rookie at this budget stuff, but it seems to me like if 2% is the standard in the other departments, it doesn't make any sense to not be consistent. It's just my general thought.
Thank you. So do we want to move forward and tentatively adopt this policy, or wait till tomorrow? I mean, Councilor Allen.
I move that we table this till after the budget is tentatively approved and bring it to our next meeting.
Motion's been made to table this resolution. Is any discussion or questions? Or go ahead, Councilor Webb.
So we could adopt the first resolution as is, but it's the payment schedule. The next resolution is the one we need to table. But
Yeah.
if Councilor Allen still has questions about the current one we're working on, the current resolution we're just looking at, then I just wanted to make that distinction.
Thank you, Councilor Webb. Motion's been made.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Grant.
How's that going to affect the budget process and having the budget come in on time? What's that going to do to the process and how the city runs if we table it?
Go ahead, Joseph.
So the reason we started this reserve fund thing 4 meetings earlier is because we wanted to have some sort of policy to then write the budget against, right? But it never got adopted. So it doesn't really harm the budget coming in on time. But if we don't minimum kind of either tweak or pass this first policy, then you won't really have anything in place that's driving what we're doing currently in the budget. It'll be kind of a back thing, right?
So if we pass the first part, then that won't interrupt the budget process.
Well,
I mean,
and
we
it'll
can pass that, but the number 2 part, the second part, that doesn't have to happen immediately.
no, and I would wait till after budget for the real numbers to go into that schedule. Then it's good for a year. It documents what the minimum is. It documents what we were able to put in for this year. And then it's on a cycle to just get reset re-up and information put into it every year following budget. So it'll be kind of like rate review and this schedule. Those things would happen after budget.
Well, that would satisfy the need of the people who, the counselors who feel like they need a hard number to
Right,
delay it and talk about it again at our next meeting. So I think that's a good move.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
I'll second that motion.
I don't know. JR, can you restate your motion? Because I don't,
Yeah.
I make a motion that we table the hard number table facts and figures until after the tentative budget's been passed and bring it back to our next meeting.
Stephanie,
So just to clarify, because you guys really have been discussing two resolutions at the exact same time, which is making a lot of confusion. If you're wanting to approve resolution, sorry, let me find the number,
2021-9.
2021-09, which is the policy, then you would make a motion to adopt that tonight. If you are wanting to wait to adopt the spreadsheet, which is all the numbers, until after budget, then you would wait until we get to 21-10 and then make the motion to table that one. Because I think that's what I'm hearing. So first, resolution 2021-09, which is the policy that why we have the reserve funds and what they're supposed to be used for.
Okay, I'll amend my motion. I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2021-9.
thank you, Counselor Allen. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second's been made. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Councillor Webb,
Aye.
Councillor Williams,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Councillor Allen,
Aye.
motion.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for that clarification. So we're going to move on to resolution 2021-10. Counselor Webb,
I'll move to table resolution 2021-10, a resolution adopting a reserve fund contribution schedule. I need to probably put a date in there. Is that the first meeting in June?
I would make it the first meeting in July,
First meeting in July. Okay.
because all the numbers and it'll have been adopted through you guys by then.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'll second that motion.
so moved and seconded. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Councillor Allen,
Aye.
Councillor Williams,
Aye.
Councillor Webb,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any correspondence tonight? Okay, no correspondence. We'll move right into the city administrator report.
Okay, so I sent you guys a report via email. So we did get the Travel Oregon downtown project funding. So that's the new trash receptacles, hanging baskets, and brackets for basically every other one that doesn't have a banner will have a flower basket, or dual flower baskets. The drip line materials to water the flowers, resetting the trip hazard pavers, electrifying the remaining light poles downtown for festival decorations, an ADA drinking fountain, some pocket park cleanup. So the city owns a pocket park, and then there's a couple other privately owned ones that Rachel is doing some landscaping upgrades to those pocket parks. And then 3 murals in the downtown core. They're still working at which businesses are willing to have them, but we know one is the parking lot wall of R&S Market. And then potentially there's one up here towards City Hall, maybe potentially on Muffy's building as you drive into town. Maybe that big long wall would have a cool greetings from Vernonia postcardy type mural. And then the third one hasn't been picked yet, or an owner has not been picked yet. So we've ordered some of the materials, the drinking fountain, and so we are working to kind of get this done as soon as we can. We have until November to spend the funding. The American Rescue Plan Act, so the state of Oregon took the funds that it itself got, divided those among the state senators and the state representatives, and then requested that cities do a presentation and testify to the Ways and Means Committee in Salem, which I did on the 14th. I took 2 projects to them, basically because those were the only ones we had numbers for at that point. One was the Louisiana North-South connection, and one was paving the Memorial Cemetery road system up there. I also did kind of make a case for rural communities and infrastructure issues that small communities face, and told, because interestingly enough, when you're waiting to testify, you hear all the other people testifying. And it was like, this community college wants $11 million, and this organization wants $14 million to make their funding gap, and kind of these really big organizations that you're like, this, you're coming from what? It was kind of blew my mind. So in the middle of it, I'm writing on a piece of paper all the things that I wanted them to understand. Is really, these are kind of one-time opportunities for them to fund rural communities in the state and do infrastructure things that it will take our citizenry years and years and years to have made right or redone. So I must have been somewhat persuasive, because State Senator Betsy Johnson contacted me to tell me that she submitted our Louisiana North-South Connection project as being funded under her money that's coming from the state. So potentially, we don't have a date yet, but we're thinking it's going to be July, that we'll get $400,000 to take the trees out, make the road base, do all the topo and all the surveying work, get it all graded appropriately, and then sidewalk down one side and paving it from Mellinger to where it is paved at B Street is the intent for the $400,000. Similar to that, we got the notice that we were slated for the $460,000 that was coming just to the municipality. That the state couldn't tell you what to do with those funds. So you'll see on the bottom of my staff report for city administrator report, I am requesting the council, once we get over budget, once we figure out who your 5th member is, that we sit down and I send you the criteria that this money can be used for, and we sit down and go over kind of what's going on in the city and some priority making for how we spend that money. Staff has some projects we would pitch to you as good alternatives, but then in reading the criteria, I want you guys to be thinking also, because maybe council comes up with one that we didn't think of. The Clatsop Sewer project, the materials are on site. We're still waiting for the trees to be removed. This has been a very kind of difficult thing to maneuver. The person that wants the trees, I'm having trouble communicating with them. They only like to communicate through email, and they feel very suspect of the city. They sent me an email asking me about the Title IX land use regulations that we snuck through. And so I'm not really sure. We're still waiting to get trees out of the area. So just interesting. We're ready to go once we get those moved over. So that's our goal. There's a filming crew coming at the end of the month. You probably saw a post about it today on Facebook. What's everyone doing downtown? They were scouting different things. They're going to be using 3 potentially city parking spots, the American Legion property, and then doing most of their filming here in Vernonia at the True Value Hardware. So they're getting all the permits. We have their insurance writer. They're getting an ODOT permit to potentially stop traffic periodically. And if anyone's interested in being an extra, I included the website in my city administrator's report. You could go be on camera, be famous. What else? We're closed Monday the 31st for Memorial Day, and that's all I got. You guys have questions?
Counselor Webb.
Get my mic turned back on. That Louisiana connection, what kind of strings do we have on that money? I kind of had an epiphany. I mean, and I've heard some feedback already, a little of people a little concerned that we're basically funding this development street. I think that's a little naive of that already being a city street to an extent. But what if we did a reimbursement district on that, and send all the development that comes into that into the future would pay a little piece of the pie? And then that would basically be our revolving funds to do what we've been talking about, punching in we've talked about punching in a street, developing it ourselves, and then get reimbursement rolling that way. So just maybe just a reimbursement on that 400,000, and I'm sure we'll lose some of it over time because all the land we think that would develop and pay in wouldn't. Anyhow, just wanted to float that idea by you because you're going to be the one that's going to know the restrictions on it.
Yeah, so I think that's probably something maybe we talk about, because really in order to do a reimbursement district, we would have to be doing the cross street, not Louisiana. Because ultimately the way it's currently building, their street facing side is not Louisiana. So when they're supposed to do curb and gutter, that would be H Street, I Street, or whatever. And if we're not putting in development, or we're not putting in water or sewer to the side ones, I don't know how you do a reimbursement district, because right now there's probably 7 different owners, and very few. I mean, it would be if you're getting your stuff through Louisiana, then I guess you fall into that reimbursement. But if you're getting all your stuff from one of the side streets, I don't know how that would work the same, other than maybe a little bit of a sidewalk fee on the Louisiana side. But if their driveway isn't and their front door isn't facing that 25-foot right-of-way, then Louisiana isn't their right-of-way as far as land use. Does that make sense what I'm saying? But it's something to think about.
JR.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I understand where you're going there, Counselor Webb, but the taxpayer in me would already say, that's my money you're spending. Why would I pay it back again? So coming from the federal government, which is taxpayers' money to start with. So you might get some pushback in that direction also. And I don't think a toll road's going to work up there. It sounds like we can't do it anyway. I did think about that. Yeah, if we put a sidewalk on one side, that homeowner, that stretch is going to get out of it compared to maybe the other side at some future day. But I guess sometimes it's good to be lucky. I don't know. But the sidewalk thing may be something, a possibility.
Oh, I think you could put in the road and right ahead of it form a reimbursement district for everywhere you're going to put a sidewalk on Louisiana, and get paid back for outlaying that cost, and then that could go into your connectivity fund. but it won't be the whole reimbursement district like it is for Andy with the stub outs and because that's already exists in Louisiana. So it's really only what you're putting into this overcapacity you need and something someone else could use that you can get reimbursed for.
Doesn't a reimbursement district though have to go through the voting process of the landowners, both sides?
No, that's a local improvement district.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got that confused.
Along those cross streets to put in the full size water and sewer, apply for a reimbursement district, and then as people build there, they could get paid back. That doesn't take a vote. If you're willing to outlay the cash and come through the city's process, you could do that ahead of it without any voting. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Grant.
I have a question. I was at Hawkins on Sunday, and there was somebody rented the gazebo, and they had a lot of little kids that had to go potty, and the bathroom was locked up, and the garbage can was overflowing. Is there a reason why that bathroom isn't open?
The Hawkins Park bathroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's typically open when there's activity there, or certain hours. It's on a time lock. So it must have just, it might have fallen outside of the time lock.
Well, as far as I know, they had reserved the gazebo. Did they not go through the city?
So
Stephanie.
the people that had rented the gazebo had also rented the scout cabin, is what we were told. So they would be using those facilities.
Well, I was in the scout cabin for church, but the kid, there was a birthday party.
Oh, sorry.
Early.
I thought you said Friday.
No, honey, the wedding was on Saturday, and the birthday party at the gazebo was Sunday. There was a bunch of people and a lot of little kids, and they had nowhere to go to the bathroom.
The only rental we had that somebody paid for the gazebo was on Friday.
Okay.
So people are allowed to go there and use it without exclusive use for free.
Right. Right.
Typically,
Yeah,
the bathrooms typically are open weekends unless there's activity. Or it's summer and we have the lifeguard and all that.
Okay. It's just kind of awkward, if there's not a porta potty or something down there when there's a lot of people.
Yeah. I was down there Sunday and there was a lot of kids and stuff down there, and it was in the afternoon about 5 o'clock. And there was quite a bit of people down there, and I just assumed the bathrooms were open. Are the parks not open on Sundays?
No, they are open. The tricky part is we're happy to reset those time locks when we leave them open, not related to event use. Is most of the time when we get vandalism and damage. So we can do that, but typically that's the time when they break the toilet or they do gross stuff in there, and then Tim comes in pulling his hair out because it's disgusting.
I think we need to get a camera facing every one of our park restrooms and make that a goal, because it seems like our police officers can't hang out in the bathrooms and ever catch them. So I don't know what the other answer is. You can't just shut down all the facilities because of a couple of hooligans in town. That's, you know what I mean? That seems.
Well, it's probably what I'm telling Grant is, unless there's something on the weekend, we don't have staff that would come do that. So clean it for the next day, right? They do a few of them. When we have park hosts that do the 2 parks, Tim will come and do, if he knows it's a heavy sunny day, he'll come do Spencer. But people don't go to all the bathrooms to make sure they're ready for the next customer on the weekends unless there's events. So that's potentially why it was closed on Saturday or Sunday or whenever you saw it, is because we don't have someone to come restock the toilet paper And then it gets horrible if you don't have all the supplies there and people start.
Stephanie?
They typically don't reset the timers in the early summer until the pool goes up. Then the timers get reset and the lifeguards monitor it as well as staff.
Thank you.
So when are they going to start filming? So we can be on the lookout.
Hey, let me pull up my calendar. So, hold on. Gotta pull up. So they are actually going to be filming on the 21st, Friday. Is it Friday?
This
21st
coming Friday.
Yeah. And they may come back depending on the shots and what they get.
So tentatively just one day.
That's what they have as of right now. They're coming in Thursday day with the equipment and everything.
Okay.
They may extend it, and we have that all written up in the agreement. So.
Okay, any other questions or discussions for the city administrator?
Yeah, that you mentioned the toilet paper running out. Are those 9-inch double rolls in those bathrooms?
Sadly, JR, they're all different over time, right? So I don't know what's in Hawkins. I know they're like, we had issues with them busting the ones in Spencer, so they're like a metal bar with the toilet paper around it so that people couldn't just bust open and grab the whole roll. I don't know what's in Hawkins, but we have different ones at each park. And I'm not saying it would run out from use either.
Right.
Could be just one of these.
So didn't we put some cameras down there, but are they all pointed to the gazebo?
They are right now at the gazebo. And with those trees, we'd almost have to come more by Dewey Pool and aim back at the bathroom because we don't really have a good line of sight there with the trees and everything.
Councilor Williams.
The only reason I brought that up is I don't want to have the same thing happen that happened at the lake where people are just going wherever they can. It stinks. It's just inconvenient for everybody. The back part of Hawkins could really drive the Wellers nuts if it gets too much activity back there.
Yeah. That reminds me, I was in Arizona and I went for a hike in Arizona this spring vacation. There's millions of people up there hiking. Great big, beautiful bathroom facilities, and it's all locked up.
Yep.
With the COVID excuse, nobody can do any work. And there's people, toilet paper all around, down in the ravines and stuff. And it just didn't make any sense to me. So hopefully that's not happening.
Okay, any other questions or discussion?
What do you think, Josette? Should we change that timer now? The weather seems better.
So we typically change it when we do the pool because that's on their schedule to activity equals the change in the, so it's scheduled to happen in the next week or so.
June 6th or something?
Well, I think it's even going to get up earlier, the dam.
Oh.
Before school doesn't get out till the 11th, which is pretty late. As far as like Jeff wanting to get in where the rise is it's too much movement in the water and everything.
Right. I just wonder if there's a sign. Is there a sign directing them over to Spencer?
No, because so this seems like a conversation because Grant, did you not want kids? You were in the scout cabin, but you didn't want the little rugrats to come in and use the bathroom?
I let them, and I was pleased to let them. But that's
Oh,
not
okay.
the issue. The issue is I would hate to have the word get out that, hey, if you want to use a park in Vernonia, they don't have all the bathrooms open. And I don't want our city to get a bad name because people can't relieve themselves in a safe, secure place without people watching. I let all the little kids in there. For about an hour. I was the steady stream of kids coming in and out of the scout cabin, but I wanted to leave. So I
Yeah,
mean, I was doing my best to help them, but
yeah,
it would have been nice if the public bathroom had been open. That's all.
yeah.
Is
Well,
that
and
just
we can,
is that just turn a key to reprogram real quick, or how does it go?
what do you mean turn a key?
Yeah, you have to have a special key in there and then just reprogram it.
No, I've never programmed one. It looks kind of like a programmable thermostat, but I've never done it.
Oh,
So,
well, I guess I'm asking who does it.
Public Works.
Oh,
They have matching ones. The Spencer, that's what the kind that are done at Anderson. They're just that bolt magnet, right?
yeah. I guess it's a mag lock. I haven't seen what's on there lately. I see your mag locks that are on the other restrooms.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not against having them change it immediately though, if at all possible. Because there isn't a close restroom from there for kids and stuff.
That's the problem with the out activity. We're almost inviting people to come and mess with it. I'm happy to do it. I'm going to tell Tim, you guys made me do it when somebody does something horrible in the bathroom because it's just, if it doesn't close before dark, then the teenagers are in there doing whatever they're going to, I mean, it's the weirdest thing with restrooms. I've never seen, it's just weird. People are weird.
I would think from noon to 7 would be plenty. I mean, no one's going to hang out really past then, I wouldn't think, as far as kids playing and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm just me. I'm just talking. So I didn't realize we had one still locked up. So, but it burns my chaps when I go to drive into a restroom and it's locked up, especially during this last year.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I heard questions about cameras come up, and if anybody wants to be involved, I am doing a conference call on Friday to review some other types of cameras that may allow us to put more cameras throughout the city and other places that don't necessarily have network connectivity.
Yeah, you can send me a link. I'm not sure I'll be able to, depending on what time it is, but if I do have time, I would log in on that.
Okay, I can't remember what time it is, but I'll try to get you guys something out tomorrow, but it's on Friday.
Oh, man, my wife's got me roped into getting a passport thing, so I'm not sure what time that is.
Oh.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Why do I visualize your wife in the background going, on Friday?
She can't hear me. She's reminded me several times. Don't forget Friday.
Well, we'll look into that. I'll talk to Chris tomorrow and see what time that is set for. And if there isn't a way to do a short opening on the weekends that gets it closed before the nefarious people come around.
That might be a good idea because I see the T-ball people are down there in the evenings too, in the late afternoons playing ball too. So be a good thing for them.
Well, and I think it's open for them, right, Stephanie, on the weekdays?
They have keys.
Okay. Okay, anything else? If not, thank you, Josette, for your, oh, go ahead, JR.
Sorry, I was just curious when you said that one of our citizens was concerned about Title IX. Can you expand on that a little bit? I heard part of it.
So the gentleman that I'm trying to work with the trees that were taken
Yeah.
out of the right of way that he's going to have placed on his property, I've been emailing him back and forth trying to have him figure out where he wants them, how long does he want them, you know, all those questions so we can get that stuff moved out of the right of way. Well, in this last one that I sent him, he had said, please send me a copy of Title IX land use changes you snuck through. And I'm like, there was like 7 public meetings where these Title IX changes were in the public's view. I didn't think anything. So for some reason, even on the website, even though all of the changes have been in every packet on the website, you know, different things you can look at, he could have called and got information. It's people's versions of it. Just sometimes you can't please everyone.
I don't think those changes had to do with cutting trees down, if I remember right.
Yeah, nothing. Not one thing has to do with what we're doing up there. So.
Well, good luck with that. Oh, and I wanted to say thank you for writing the grant that was successful for beautification in downtown. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's going to.
Okay, moving on to items from the mayor or councilors.
I got mine out there.
Okay.
Oh, can I question though on that grant?
Yes.
When you say the can was overflowing, the dumpster?
Yes, yes. And
Okay.
and store the cans at the back of the cabin. I couldn't put them into the dumpster because it's already overflowing. So we're kind of at a packed state.
Yeah, we've got to try and get a lock on that one. It seems like any of the unlocked ones, the citizenry is just sneaking in there and filling them up. So I got to talk to Greg about getting one on that one, and then the one down by Spencer by the grandstand. I see the same truck, and I've actually got his license and a picture of him, but just kind of dumping household stuff when you can.
Yep.
And I get it, people are, you know, tight and they don't have money, but hey, the city doesn't need to pay for it. So.
Is that
Well,
a white?
the last time there was room to put something in there, there was a chair and a TV, and you know, I mean, there wasn't really room to put the garbage from the cabin. So you're right. A lock on there would be great.
Yeah.
While we're talking about that area down there by the scout cabin, Josette, there was one concern that came out of the senior board. Is there any way we could patch those 2 big chuck holes going alongside the building towards the back? There was some concern there that those chuck holes along the road there are getting really deep.
In the gravel?
Yeah,
Yes.
the little road going to the back parking area.
Yeah, I can look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or just comments or discussions? I guess we're ready for an action item summary then, Josette.
Okay, so I only have 2 things. I have that at the first meeting in July, we'll be bringing back the updated with the approved budget contribution schedule for the reserves. And I have checked the chuck hole gravel area of the scout cabin.
Oh, I
Okay.
got one quick thing. That city lot out in front of the senior center is like 3 foot tall grass. Is that a city lot? I assume it is.
It is. I don't know why that one, I know Jonathan is doing the open space. And since I'm still trying to work with the county to get the county ones, he added the county ones this last round. So I'll have to remind him. Maybe he forgot or is still behind on the rest of them.
Yeah, it looked like they mowed some of them down past, is it Sally Harrison's house? There's a city lot with the two big trees.
Yeah.
That one looks freshly mowed, so kind of reminded me when I saw that. And then I drove up there and like, man, some of that grass is pretty thick along the 47.
I almost got that weed eated, JR, in front of the health center and the senior center. I did it all by myself last year. But
I think,
I,
yeah.
I'm pretty busy these days. I sure appreciate if Jonathan could knock her down.
Yeah,
It's pretty high.
I seen you working down at the post office and behind Subway, so that was mighty nice of you, and it looks much better. So thank you from all of us.
You're welcome.
And you and your wife. You and your wife were down there. That was nice of you to fix up that post office. I don't know why they won't do anything.
So one other thing I did at 5 o'clock, I hung the banner for the hometown heroes that Doug and had asked. So when you drive into town, you'll see it.
It's
How
very
did
nice.
it-
I saw you putting it up. Thank
How
you.
did it fit, Josette?
Great. It wasn't
Good.
4 feet tall.
No,
It's a little, so I just took zip strips and kind of braced it, but it's full 20 feet long.
Oh, good.
That's it.
it's more like 2 feet high, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not very
wide,
high. Yeah.
but it is nice.
Yeah, it looks good.
Good.
So we got budget tomorrow, 6:30, correct?
Yeah.
That's right. Be there or be square.
Yeah.
Stephanie, you'll have something with the link on it for us?
It's already sent to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Are you unable to get it out of your?
I haven't checked again. I'll check again. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sure I got it.
There's nothing else. I'll adjourn the meeting.
Good meeting, boss.
Good night, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Meeting adjourned at
Night,
9
everyone.
p.m. 9
Good
o'clock.
night.
Beautiful.